So, what would your advice be to an author who is feeling overwhelmed by having to create that reader magnet on top of the gazillion other things that they've got going on, both in terms of the book itself and in terms of whatever's going on in their life outside of that?
I would tell them just to do the first thing. Just that's it. And whenever you're overwhelmed with anything, that's just do the next thing on the list. So the things that you need to create a decent reader magnet are you have to have an idea, ideally that relates to your series. So stop, sit down, the series that you decided, we talked about that a little bit ago, the most popular one, the least popular one, the next one, whatever series you decided you're going to do your cookie for, sit down, read the first book of that series. Usually the first book is the place you want to get the idea because you want to be able to offer the cookie right after the first book. So something that happened in the first book, somebody that was introduced, something that was referenced, the thing you said about how you often mention the mom getting outed, but that story isn't in the book. That's perfect. Something that happens off screen. I often use an urban fantasy example by an author. Her name is Ginevra Black. And what happens with Ginevra is that her main character is a necromancer and she accidentally reanimates. She does not know she's a necromancer because that's urban fantasy 101. She's just going to learn over the course of book one. She accidentally reanimates her hamster that has died. So we've got this hamster that is now a revenant, but she doesn't understand. And she's just like, he's sick. There's something not right with this hamster because there is something not right with this hamster. Her roommate takes the hamster to the vet. And partway through the book, when she has realized what's going on, there's a moment where someone mentions him and she has now acquired a zombie sidekick. They sort of look at each other like, oh shit. And they take off like, oh shit, the zombie hamster is at the emergency vet. And the next time we see them, because there's a scene in between from someone else's point of view. The next time we see them, they're sitting in his car. The zombie has a car. It's a long story. It's a very funny book. And the main character has this hamster cage in her lap, and they basically just say, let's never talk about that again. And at the end, and I would argue, honestly, that story does not belong in the book. It's quite long. It ended up being, I think, like 40 pages when I did the edit for that. So I think it was like 40 pages in Word. And it's very much a side quest. It doesn't come to bear on anything else that happens. So I was perfectly comfortable saying, that's your reader magnet. You need to tell that story, but you can't tell it in here. And so she wrote the story about what happens during that essentially side quest. So if you can pull something like that out of the book and go, people are going to want to know this, then that's absolutely perfect.